Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe. Got a really great show for you today. We've got Rob and Lauren Belz here. Rob, Lauren, welcome. How you doing today?
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having us.
We're doing great. Thank you.
Absolutely. And for everybody listening, here's what we're going to be talking about today. And I really hope you enjoy the show as much as I did. First of all, we're going to talk about their story, how they met, going from Air Force into multifamily via, a couple of single family homes, talk about, mindset shifts, networking, getting creative and, building your personal brand. So those are the things we have coming up today. Hope you guys enjoy it. And here's the show. So great meeting you guys. I think one of my favorite things about you is Lauren is a Utah grad. We don't have to really highlight that, but I wanted to. But let's start out with this. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, and I'll let you guys decide who gets to go first.
Well, ladies first, so please.
Okay, that's fair. So I was born and raised actually in San Antonio, Texas, and then met a military pilot. And so we've kind of traveled all over the West. Originally started in the oil and gas industry, and then got my master's at the U, still continued in that oil and gas field, and then started just investing in real estate, kind of for us as like a backup plan to fund our kids' tuition for their time when they got to college.
Nice. Now, do you have kids yet, or is that still a future thing?
We do. We've been busy. We have three children. So we have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and then a 10-month-old.
Okay. All right. If you were still in Utah, you would fit in perfectly. So, yes.
Yes. Yeah. The debate's still out. Maybe there's going to be another one. So
yeah, it depends who you ask.
Yeah. I mean, we thought we stopped at 2, and then we thought we were going to stop at 3, and then we thought we were going to stop at 4, and we have 5 right now. Yeah.
A mix?
4 girls and a boy.
Yeah, that's good choices.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you offline for some advice, please.
Yeah, I'll just say every one of them is different, and it's like you think you have a template on how to parent, and then the next one comes out, it's just like completely different. So yeah, I'm still clueless. And you ask my kids, they'll say the same thing. But so Rob, how about you? Tell us where, where you came from.
Sure.
Maybe a little bit about flying those, really sexy F-35s and such. Yeah. Give us a little bit of an idea of who you are.
Sure. Coincidentally, I'm from San Antonio as well. So Lauren and I, unbeknownst to us, grew up about 30 minutes apart from each other.
Mm-hmm.
But went to the Air Force Academy after high school, and then obviously commissioned in 2012 to pilot training, and spent a couple of years back in Southwest Texas at a place called Laughlin Air Force Base, flying the mighty T-6.
Yeah.
And starting in 2016, 2017 timeframe, started flying the F-35. And actually hung up my boots, if you will, in the F-35 last Thursday. We call it a Finny flight, or your final flight.
Yep.
My Finny flight was in the F-35 last Thursday. So, a lot of happiness of looking forward to the next chapter of my life, but a little sad, right? That was called my first love of an airplane.
Most people, when they leave the military, there is a little bittersweetness, it's you're grateful for the opportunity to serve and all that stuff. I think with me, I was also, chomping in the bit and ready to move on to the next part of my life, which is a sweet part, so moving away from something you love and enjoy to something that hopefully you love and enjoy just as much. But anyway, thanks for your service. Congratulations on the Finny flight, and hope it was epic.
It was everything I'd imagined. And
did you break the sound barrier, fly upside down a little bit? I mean, anything
all the above, from 100 feet to 50,000 feet above the speed of sound below it, and then did a tour of some of the national parks before I ran out of gas and had to come back home.
Nice. Yeah, and you guys are in Vegas right now, so flying out of Nellis. Right. And I've seen a lot of low-level flights over those deserts before, so it sounds like a whole lot of fun. But well, awesome. So we talked a little bit about military career. How did you get into real estate? I mean, same story as Lauren, a little bit different.
Well, we stumbled on it together. So I was stationed at Randolph in San Antonio, Texas for training, where Lauren was living at the time. And I had a quick assignment, 2 weeks to prepare. It was either going to Holloman in New Mexico or Luke in Phoenix, Arizona. And at the last minute, I was going to Luke. And so we had 2 weeks. I was just living on the edge in military housing. Lauren had a house.
Mhm.
So we didn't know what to do with this house. And as fate would have it, your mom.
Well, and I was still working at the time too. So, and this was my first job straight out of college. So I think I was more worried about how to tell the team that I was going to be leaving in such short notice because no one was expecting it. So that was my main focus. And then my mom, I kind of called her saying, "Oh my gosh, like we're moving and I have a house and a job and like I don't know what to do." And she's like, "Don't worry, just take care of the job part of it. The house, we'll figure it out. We're still here." So both of our families were still in San Antonio. So she's like, "You have a ton of people here. We can help you through this." And she was like, "Worst case, you could try renting it." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, that kind of sounds good." Because I wasn't prepared yet to sell that house. It was my first big purchase on my own. I just hadn't mentally grasped everything that was happening to me in my life. And I knew once you kind of jumped into the military lifestyle, a lot of your control leaves. And so I think I still wanted a little bit of control. And that house was that for me for a little bit. So we actually rented it because that's what the time allotted allowed us to do. So that's kind of how we got started in it originally.
Awesome. Awesome. So in a way, accidental landlords, I think a lot of people call it that. And yeah, you do see a lot of those in the military. It's we bought a house in San Diego, and I was talking with the guy that writes orders. We call him a monitor in the Marine Corps, but the guy that ends up sending telling you where to go.
Mm-hmm.
And we were living in San Diego, and he's like, "Yeah, I got about a 90% chance that I can keep you in San Diego, for another couple of years." And so we bought a house, and it was a very similar story. We were in escrow on the house when he called me up and says, "Hey, I'm sorry, I got to move you to North Carolina. I got to move you. I can't keep you in San Diego." And we got the house under contract. We're in escrow, and it's like, "Oh, I guess we'll be landlords." That's a similar decision, but yeah, that's military.
Yeah, just when you think you have everything figured out, right? The military sometimes likes changing on you.
Yeah. So, well, that's cool. That's cool. So first house, that the accidental landlording. How did your portfolio grow from there?
Sure. Well, it's amazing what time does. So we accidental landlorded for about a year. And then we went on our honeymoon after we got married and had time to read Rich Dad Poor Dad after a friend recommended it to us. It's like, you got to read this. I
think you guys were reading that on your honeymoon too. It's like,
all right.
Well, and two, it was like the first time we had downtime because we just had so much going on with him training for the F-35. It was like we were like in Phoenix for about 10 months. And then so he was just busy training. I was trying to grasp and get together what my life was going to look like. And so we had just moved to Utah. And I think we got married like 2 or 3 months after we had relocated to Utah. And then that's when we were like, well, let's just kind of take a chill vacation because we know once we get back to Utah, we knew before we went on our honeymoon, he was deploying right when we got back. So we told ourselves going into our honeymoon that it was going to just be like, relax. You're going to have no plans. So it was a perfect time to read a book.
Yeah. Awesome. That book, there's one of those copies over on the shelf. And I mean, that's kind of what lit the fire for me. I was on a boat from Okinawa to the Philippines when I read that book. Still remember it, but yeah, it changed a lot of people's mindset. So you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and let me guess, you want to start buying assets.
Exactly.
Nailed it. And I think what makes this so funny is that, like she said, I deployed right after we read that book a couple of weeks later, and I'm on the other side of the world, and Lauren is like sending me deals on houses, and then I get a text or a phone call that said, "Hey, we're under contract." I'm like, what? I need you to go to the JAG to get a power of attorney signed.
Yeah, we were buying the house. We were buying the house together because at that time I was in my master's program at the U, and so we had to use his income to purchase the house. And so then that's when the title company was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to need both of you guys to sign." And I was like, "Oh, that's the problem. Robert's like not even in the state, much less the country." And she's like, "Okay, well, you're going to need to get all of this stuff in order for you to sign on his behalf." So a lot of check boxes checked with that first purchase.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we've done 2 closings on properties with me out of the country. And I think my wife's still a little upset at me for how many times she had to sign. It's you sign your name, you sign my name. It's like 6 times the signatures when you do it with power of attorney.
Yes. And then I think they even make you put like special power of attorney. And I think they make you write it all out, if I remember right. It's been so long. It was also traumatic for me. So I've kind of tried to take that out of my mind.
Yeah. She just reminds me all the time. She's like, do I have to sign this one? And
Yeah, she
I'm
hasn't
not
forgotten.
doing that again, so anyway, yeah. So fun that you guys had to go through that experience too. It's really easy for me. I signed once on the power of attorney, stuck it in the mail, you know.
I don't know what all the fuss was about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's number two. How did you guys go after that, or where did you guys go after that as far as properties?
I think even before that, his dad was telling us, because so we had the Texas house that we were renting out. So I was telling Robert, I think we can really make something of this single family space. Like, I understand it. And his dad, he didn't say no, but he said, well, you should look into the multifamily space too. I'm telling you, it's a lot easier. And it was a huge mindset shift for me, because I was just like, I don't know, 4 doors, that seems so daunting. Like, you have to fill 4 units. Whereas a single family, in my mind, I was like, I just have to fill one. I have to find like one person that wants this space. So he talked to us enough about getting into multifamily. We did the single family. So we had a single family in Texas. Now we have this single family in Salt Lake City. And it was funny. We were actually home for Christmas, and his dad always just would talk about real estate with us. So we pulled up the MLS, and pulled up some Utah stuff. And we actually, I think Robert came across a triplex that had been sitting for a while, and we were still super new to all of this stuff. So to us, we're like, oh, this looks cute enough. Like, we'll go look into it. And sure enough, that's a property we ended up buying. Nice. Now we later realized that it was sitting so long because there was no off-street parking, and there was a building next to it that was going to be condemned. The area has since been revived. It's in the Marmalade area. But yeah, we kind of, I guess, stumbled upon that property too.
Nice. It's fun. If you can survive something like that, with no experience and come out good. I mean, that's where people get hooked. It's just like, yeah. And one of my first multifamily properties, I didn't realize this till later. There's a saying, easy to buy, hard to sell. If something's really easy to buy, it's not going to be easy to sell on the back end. But yeah, we've had a couple of those properties actually, but no more.
It's funny the lessons you learn along the way, because the first time we look at a place now, especially in our little current multifamily buy box in Salt Lake, is all right, is there off-street parking? Like, first, how many thermostats are in the building? Because so many of these buildings are cut up old mansions that have one thermostat for 6 apartments, which is obviously not going to work. But those are just lessons you learn, like the school hard knocks, that they're hard to teach or hard to absorb, I'll say.
Yes, absolutely. And incidentally, my daughter lived right in that area. She was on 3rd North, just to the east of West High. She moved out of the apartment about 6 months ago, but she was right in that area.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, awesome. So you get the 3-plex. How many units do you guys have right now?
27.
27. So walk us through going from 3, where that 3-plex to all the way up to 27 now.
Well, I would say during COVID, we got bored. It's kind of true. We had time, and we found like this agent who was just amazing in Salt Lake. She helped us buy our primary residence, and then we showed her the triplex, and then she kind of saw what we were going after. And then she actually started feeding us a lot of deals. So our next 3 deals that we purchased were all from her. So the next deal we purchased, it was right before COVID had happened.
It was right after.
Or it was right after?
Because I was deployed again, and I remember walking through, touring the space with a mask on.
Yeah.
You're right. It was, that's right. Because we were trying to tour the spaces. Obviously, before you close, you want to walk through all the spaces to really know what you're getting into. And the tenants only wanted one person to go through at a time.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a hassle, but
I forgot about that. We had a couple of cases where we're doing due diligence, and legally you have access to the property because you've given the proper notification. But there are a lot of tenants who are just like, "Nuh-uh, you're not coming in. I don't care." It's just like, okay, can you just open the door so we can look at? So we had a couple of those too. That was a really interesting time to buy stuff. But anyway, back to your story. So I'll stop interrupting soon.
No, it's fine. So she brought us this 4-plex. It was off market. So this is the only off market deal we've ever done. And I don't even really know the story behind it. Someone within her agency, I guess, had it circulating on their like inner web or whatever they have. intraweb. And so she's like, hey, this is a fourplex. It's great location right next to Liberty Park. You guys should check it out. And of course, I don't know, you've probably had this happen to you, but the seller was like overseas traveling on some Christmas European vacation. And so he was very slow at responding to us.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, we were like, well, I guess it's not really, it was off market. So we're like, I guess he's not really that serious. He was just putting out feelers. And then he ended up coming back to us when he got back stateside. And he was like, no, I'm interested in selling it. So we bought that one. And then we actually, our single family resident at that time told us that she was going to be moving, and I was pregnant. And so I was like, oh, wow, I don't know. I know we're going to have this baby. I don't know how we're going to fill this single family home. And now we have a triplex and a fourplex. And so she actually, her telling us that, we called our agent immediately and we're like, we need to sell this single family home. I don't know why that was like our first response to it, but that's what we did. So we ended up selling that house. And then our agent was like, well, have you thought about what you're going to do with your gains? And we're like, no, we haven't really thought that far. We're just trying to like survive life at this point. And she was like, well, you should 1031, you should look into it. So we looked into it, and then she was like, oh, here's another fourplex. So we had one fourplex that we just purchased on the west side of Liberty Park. This one was on the east side of Liberty Park. So that's kind of how it happened. It all happened within about 6 months of each other, those two purchases.
I think a key ingredient is that real estate in downtown Salt Lake's expensive, as you know. So we ran out of money. I mean, we were on a military salary, and then with Lauren in school, and subsequently getting hired as a petroleum engineer. But we started to explore like the OPM, right? The other people's money. So we started a partnership, and initially did a joint venture with one partner, then a joint venture with two partners. So I guess 3 total. And then that ultimately led us to a syndication, which we're currently involved in down in Central City, Salt Lake.
Kind of like Robert said, we ran out of money quickly. And so at one point we saw, okay, we could purchase these buildings, but now how are we going to fix them up? Because we have to raise these rents to now service our debt. And so that's when a loan officer, and I guess we've kind of just ran into the right people along the way, right? A loan officer was like, hey, this is what I would do. I've seen people do in the past. You and Robert, you purchase the building and then bring in, like Robert said, bring in a partner, and that partner funds the rehab. And now you guys are joint owners, if you will, in this building. And so that's what we did on those 2 fourplexes. Then after that, we kind of caught our breath and decided that we saw a 12 unit come up. It was kind of a mixed bag in the sense that it was residential. It had like 5 duplexes and 1 commercial building. And we had never been in the commercial space, but we were like, well, we can handle the residential. And at least this is like an easy way to get into the commercial side of things to see if we like it. Because I don't know how else we would have jumped into the commercial side without just, taking a leap of faith. So we raised money for that one. That was our first project that we syndicated. So we have to date, we have stabilized all of the duplexes. So the residential's full, it's running, operating efficiently. And our commercial tenant, he just moved out at the end of December. So now we're trying to get that space kind of, up and running, if you will, or more presentable. He's been in the space since 2008. So
it had some unique decor. We'll say that nicely. So we're looking to, what do they call it? A vanilla shell. So just paint the walls white, rip up the old floor. But so if you know anybody in the area that wants a commercial space, about 3,000 square feet.
Now, is that one of the Central City area ones, or is that?
It is.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. We just closed on a place in Central City. Oh, and fun fact, my cousin is the Utah State Assemblyman over that area. So
cool.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you ever need, I don't know if he can pull any strings for you, but he lives in that area. He knows the area well, and he represents it in the state assembly. But it is a really, really cool area. A lot of good stuff there. I don't know if you guys know this, but when I was growing up, Liberty Park was the place you don't go, and what I really love is in the last 10 to 15 years, it's been one of those areas that's been revitalized. And so I still sometimes get the heebie-jeebies when people say Liberty Park, but it's such a pretty area now. A lot of flippers have gone in, a lot of things have changed, but I really love what's going on, especially Central City. I mean, Central City, for people not listening, is that core area right around the downtown, mostly from downtown to the University of Utah area. But great area to buy stuff, and super excited to know more people there. But all right. Anyway, we're going to get into the next part of the podcast really quick, and that's what's next for you guys. What's your plan coming up?
I separated, or at least signed my Finney last week, and that gives me a lot more time, right? And with Lauren now doing this full time and myself doing this full time, we're looking to apply all bandwidth to growing Belz Living.
Nice.
And I'm looking forward to the next step. So that's the discussions that we've had is one increase is transacting more, right?
Yep.
And what does that look like? Raise capital in syndications? Is it wholesaling? Is it flipping? Is it just buying single family homes or much larger apartments to rent? But that's where our focus is.
Yeah, I would say now we have the most time. And so we're trying not to get like this shiny object syndrome and go after everything. We kind of just want to focus on one thing. Right now with our apartments, we're holding them from 3 to 5 years. So those are longer cash conversion cycles, if you will. So we're trying to find something to fill the void in between. But I think Robert is actually in the business class right now. And what he told me is we are on, is it defense right now?
Yeah,
we're on defense because we just need to get all of our systems and processes better organized. We are just, it's just 2 of us and our bandwidth can be spent very quickly if we don't kind of schedule our days and stick to our schedules.
Yeah. I just heard it was so good last week was you're not obviously working in your business, you're working for your busyness, like BUSY. And you're busy all day, but your processes and procedures aren't stable enough to where things can run efficiently. So I think the defense aspect for the next couple of weeks is, all right, let's shore up our processes and procedures to make things repeatable and scalable. And that will facilitate our growth. So that's where we're at right now.
That's huge. That's huge. And I mean, I brought on a couple of employees in the last year and people ask me, okay, well, I mean, you got people working for you. What do you do now? And that's really what my focus has been, is working on the business and letting them work in the business. And, I've created a lot of processes, just spent a couple hours fine tuning one of them this morning and thinking, okay, this is what we did well, this is what we didn't, and writing down how you're going to do things, making your templates. And then you guys already said it. I mean, getting yourselves to follow the processes. That's, I think, the hardest part, so.
It's funny. We're a husband and wife team, right? And we have the same process or the same end result, I should say, and they're both in our heads, but we have a little bit different process and procedure to get there. Yeah. And it's funny to have these discussions. Wait, what?
I'll tell you what my business coach told me about that stuff. When you're writing down the processes, there's a thing in the Pareto principle applies to just about everything. 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your efforts. All right. When you're writing down the processes, focus on the 20% of things. They're going to get you the 80% of the results. And then, whether or not you're wearing a blue shirt or a yellow shirt while you're doing it, who cares, right? So there is a lot of individualism to it, but as long as you're doing that 20% the same way every time, you can hand it off to somebody else. And this is where the power is. You can hire somebody or bring in a partner, hand off the process, and they can work it differently, with their own flair and, maybe do things slightly different. But as long as they're sticking to the 20% that's going to get you the 80% of the results, you've got your process nailed.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's, my tendency when putting processes is to get to that 90%. And, right now I'm kind of dialing back on a lot of it. And hey, here's some templates, but, just like the military, you've got your templates, you got your doctrine, and it's a starting point, and if you stick to it, you're probably going to fail. If you stick to it 100% of the time, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
True.
So, but cool. All right. So, we're going to try this out, see how it works. We used to have these Ask the Expert episodes where people could, ask, questions. So I'm going to throw it out to you guys. You got any burning questions that I could potentially help you out with?
Yeah, I would ask, my question is, what was the hurdle that you had to overcome going from, say, 20, 30 units to 100, 200?
Yeah. Mindset was it. That was 100% it. I skipped the 20 to 30. I went from single family. Our first purchase was a 55. I still remember it. It was actually a retired Air Force guy that helped me clear this hurdle. We were at a conference around multifamily, and we had just met, and I told him, okay, I've got, 3 single family homes right now. My next step is I want to buy like a sixplex or an eightplex. Okay. And I still remember his name's Dan, put his hand on my shoulder and he kind of turned me around. We were in the corner, wallflowers pointed me towards everybody in front of us. And he's like, Brian, there's a lot of guys out there that are buying big apartment complexes. He's like, I've talked to you for the last 10 or 15 minutes. You're a smart guy. Okay. You're probably smarter and more successful than 3/4 of the people there. There's a lot of guys out there that are buying 100+ unit apartments, 3, 4, 5 times a year. He's like, you can do that, and it really took him to just explain it to me in a way that, and it wasn't an immediate thing. It was basically as I was going through, networking in the next couple of days, I was talking to regular people who were buying 100-unit apartment complexes, who were buying 10, 15, $20 million apartment complexes. And, over the next couple of weeks, that kind of sunk in and it was like, you know what? He's right. I can do it. And the next step for me was, how, and I signed up for coaching is what I ended up doing. But that was really the big mindset shift that I had from I have to go from 1 to 5 and then from 5 to 10 and 10 to 20. But he unlocked that part in my brain that said, no, I can go from 3 to 100. I've just got to figure out how.
Yeah. So something I think you said really good there was networking.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people aren't that good at it, or you have to intentionally network. Do you have any tips for how to maybe intentionally network?
Yeah, great question here. So intentional networking, number one, you've got to make sure you know what you're looking for. That's part of the intention is know what you're looking for, know what you need. And part of that is, I mean, if you guys are syndicating, you can actually just look, hey, this is what we need. We need a business partner, we need people to fund. So you figure out what you need. The next part of networking is figure out the rooms to get into where you've got a very high concentration of people that can meet your needs.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 3, be laser focused on that when you're networking. All right. And what I mean by that, maybe you're looking for, I'm going to use color of your shirts again, right? So, hey, if you guys are listening to this on the podcast, we got one in a blue shirt, one in a yellow shirt. So maybe you're looking for somebody, with a blue shirt, right? So if you start talking to somebody and realize that they're not the person you need to talk to, politely excuse yourself. Hey, great meeting you. It was great talking with you. And then move on and just be laser focused on this is what I need to get out of this event. And if they're not going to help me get there, politely excuse myself, move on.
Yeah, I feel like you're talking directly to my soul because it's funny going to these network events. I'll just get distracted and talk to. It's fun to talk to different people, but you're right. Yeah. It's intentional networking is a very different skill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, I fall into the trap all the time. There's a lot of people that are fun to talk with. I enjoy meeting new people, but it's something that you just have to. When I do it the best is when I, before walking in the doors, I just remind myself, this is what I'm looking for. And when I find this type of person, I need to get a contact information. And what I typically try to do is set something up when we're talking, not wait till later. But that's another part of the intentionality is set something up while you're talking. Hey, hey, it's been great talking with you. We have some common interest. Can we set up a call for early next week? I mean, do you have your calendar with you? Everyone's got their calendar on their phone. Open it up. Hey, how's Monday at 2 p.m.? Great. So that's probably the other part that I don't do well yet. But that's something I've learned recently from somebody I partnered with a lot.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Another question I have for you is so you said you have other people kind of working in your business and you're working on your business. How are you growing your business currently, or what are your focuses?
So, we're looking to buy, I mean, the big focus, we're buying multifamily in Salt Lake City. Okay. So the first person I hired was somebody to do acquisitions, underwriting, talk to all the brokers, manage the flow. And I was adamant that that had to be somebody who's living, along that Wasatch Front, so that they're there
Right.
and flexible. So that was the first hire. My second hire was somebody that could help with the investor relations and the raising capital, So that was hire number two. Actually, back to where I'm looking for somebody because we parted ways earlier this week. But so really where my mindset was is, what are the big things that move the business, deals and money, And so if I could find one person to help find deals and one person to help find money, you've got, a good 60, 70, 80% of what you need to create a business. And then, everything else, at the time, everything else was on me. So,
When
uh,
did you know it was time to hire someone?
when you know it's time to hire someone, you're probably too late.
That's okay. We're
So,
too late. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like getting thirsty on a run. You just like I should have been drinking water. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Networking. I was at a big networking event. There's a guy that I was partnering with. He's tried to call twice since we started recording the podcast, but he's successfully exited a couple of venture-backed businesses and whatnot. And I told him what I was trying to do, and I was like, I just need to find the right partner in Salt Lake, and you know, then it's game on. And
Sure.
he says, "Why partner? Why not hire?"
Mm.
And at first it was a foreign concept to me. It's like because everybody tells me I need to partner. That was I didn't say that, but that was the real answer because everybody told me I need to find a partner. And he was
Mhm.
the first person to tell me, dude, you've got everything you need. Just start hiring people to do the other jobs. And it took a little while for that to sink in, but within a couple of months, I started, okay, yeah, who am I going to hire first? And fortunately, it's not a chicken and egg game. It's you need deals. You need somebody to start looking for deals. But um, yeah, so that was really it. Now, anyway, we are about out of time. I'm going to have to wrap up soon. So,
Sure.
one final question for you guys. If you had to give advice to somebody who is 6 to 12 months behind where you're at right now, what would that advice be?
I'll go first. I have an answer in my mind is get creative.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And if you're called 6 to 12 months behind us where we are, you're already past the just take the first step and you're already past the love of investing. Where the roadblocks happen is where you have this cookie cutter black and white solution and the first no you hit, you just accept it. And to get past that no, because all it takes is one yes,
Mhm.
to get past that no, you have to get creative.
Yeah.
And that creativity could be persistence. It could be making phone calls, networking, which we spoke to. It could
Mhm.
be going to an internet forum and
Yeah.
reading different solutions that people had. Ideally, it's from a mentor or someone
Mhm.
that you trust and respect who has no gain or value to give you advice,
Yeah.
right? So think of like a family member, love. They just want to they want to see you succeed. And that's what I would say. If you're 6 to 12 months behind us, get creative. And that's where we are. And that's what we continue to try to do.
Yeah, my advice would be to start building your own personal brand. We have these tools, or I call them tools, but phones. And I see so many people consuming. Instead of being a consumer of social media, start producing social media. And it's so hard. You're in your own way. You care too much about what other people think, but just start recording what you're doing. I mean,
Mhm.
the good news is right now you have probably no one watching. So even if you say something totally wrong or crazy, I bet not that many people will know. And so but I think that helps. And it's part of networking, right? Because maybe you do say something funny or great, and then you have something that goes viral, or you have that person that is looking for someone to maybe join your team and they see a video of yours. And I don't know, it just about 6 months ago, actually, we started doing that. We started to be more intentional with our social media, not doing it when we had time, but making sure we're on some kind of platform at least once a day. And so our goal is obviously to get better and be more consistent and show up more. But right now we can devote to one post a day.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for spending time with me on the show today, bringing all the value you guys did. One last question, and that's how can listeners learn more about you guys?
Our Instagram at Belz_living is where you can find a lot about us. Obviously, DM us. We have a Facebook and then our website, belzliving.com.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll put links to that in the show notes. And incidentally, if you're listening, Belz is Belz. It's not like, for whom the bell tolls or whatever. But, there we go. There we go. Anyway, thanks a lot for coming on to the two of you. And that's a wrap.